and thanks for joining us today for this virtual announcement. My name is Marcel Pouliot, and I am a lead consultant with IQ Trucking and AMTA Board of Directors mentor. I'm very fortunate to have been involved with today's announcement, and I'm honored to act as your MC today. I'm coming to you live from Calgary, Alberta, and I'm proud to be joined today by the Honorable Minister of Natural Resources and a Member of Parliament from St. John's South, Mount Pearl in Newfoundland and Labrador, Seamus O'Regan, along with speakers Chris Nash, Steve MacDonald, Andrea Decore, David Lazyzell, and Colin Armstrong. Before I begin, I would like to establish a few housekeeping rules. For the speakers participating in today's event, please keep your microphones on mute when you're not speaking, and please unmute yourself when it's your turn to speak. We ask that members of the audience please keep your microphones on mute and cameras off for the entire event. There will be a media availability at the end of this event. To ask a question, choose Ian Cameron's name from the drop-down list in the chat box located on the right side of your screen. Type your name and outlet, and Ian will call on you during the media Q&A session to ask your questions directly to the speakers. I'd like to recognize a few other key players who are with us today. Jeff Grant from Zen Clean Energy Solution, Karen Sang from Trimac Transportation, and Mike Gomes from Bison Transport. The Alberta Motor Transport Association has worked hard in recent years to lead the adoption of new technologies and push the conventional boundaries of Canada's commercial transportation industry. AMTA remains a champion of Canada's efforts to decarbonize our industry and to create a more resilient, efficient, and prosperous supply chain. I'd now like to introduce our first speaker to tell us the exciting reasons we've come today together, the Honourable Minister of Natural Resources, Seamus O'Regan. Minister?
Marcel, thanks very much. I am joining you from the island of Newfoundland, which is the ancestral homeland of the Mi'kmaq and Beothuk peoples. And I'd say it's been a tough winter. It's been a tough spring. It's been a tough 15 months. We've had to change everything from how we work to how we socialize and gather, how we make exciting announcements. Because normally, trust me, I would be there with you in person. But anyway, we're doing it by Zoom. Vaccines are here, and they are arriving in record numbers with millions more on the way. Nearly 60% now of Canadians have received their first dose. And in Alberta, you're on track for everyone to be eligible for their second dose by the end of the month. So this is light at the end of a very long tunnel. It is good news. But I think everybody here knows we've still got challenges, and chief among them is combating climate change. It is a threat to our communities. It is a risk to our economy. I see it in my own province here in Labrador, where I grew up, where you've got Inuit and Innu communities just 200 kilometers north of Happy Valley Goose Bay, where I grew up. And they're experiencing a winter, they experienced a winter unlike any that they can remember. It was unlike any that their elders have ever seen. Average temperatures 10 degrees higher than normal in the height of winter. Ice coverage melting faster than in any other part of our country. And I mean, the Arctic is warming twice as fast as the rest of the planet. Northern Nunavut, the north coast of Labrador, it's losing its ice coverage faster than anywhere in the Canadian Arctic. And you're experiencing it too. You've got increased flooding that forces thousands of people from their homes in Fort McMurray, increased wildfires, destroying buildings and burning forests. And, this is threatening the very survival of our communities right now. Climate change is not theoretical, and it couldn't be clearer. It is changing the communities around us. It is forcing us to adapt to new surroundings right now, which means we need to tackle the crisis the need to tackle the crisis did not end when the global pandemic began. And the urgency is only going to intensify as we start to get COVID-19 in our rearview mirror. So it is up to us to act, to not just rebuild, but to build back better, to be smarter, and to build back more sustainably and more inclusively. The transportation sector is central to it, and it has to be. 25%, one full quarter of Canada's greenhouse gas emissions comes from transportation, just transportation. And 3/4 of those emissions come from two sources: passenger cars and trucks and heavy duty vehicles. So we need to transform transportation, and we're well on the way. We're back now by $600 million to get to where we need to be, including demonstrating innovative charging and hydrogen refueling technologies to expand our national network of charging stations for electric vehicles, to build natural gas stations along some key freight corridors, and to locate hydrogen stations in metropolitan centers. That's what today is all about. Under the leadership of the Alberta Motor Transport Association, in partnership with the Emissions Reduction Alberta, Ballard Power Systems, Dana Inc., and our government, we are taking the next step, one that brings long-range fuel cell electric trucks to a highway near you. It is called the Alberta Zero Emissions Truck Electrification Collaboration, AZETEC project, or AZETEC, however you decide. It is a mouthful to say, but it is a real opportunity to address barriers that might otherwise stall fuel cell electric trucks. This project includes installing and testing a hydrogen refueling station to power the heavy-duty commercial fleet vehicles that run between Edmonton and Calgary. To see how this technology performs on the most bitterly cold winter days, and also at the height of summer heat waves. And to make it possible, the federal government is contributing $2.3 million from Natural Resource Canada's Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Demonstration Program. So imagine this, one day soon, electrified fuel cell heavy-duty trucking between Alberta's two largest cities. That is a game changer. So you're lowering emissions, leading to healthier and cleaner communities, trucks that move the goods and products that we need between Edmonton and Calgary, all running on hydrogen, not one of them emitting GHGs. It's no longer a dream. It is possible now. As Sturgeon County Mayor Alana Nachu said when we unveiled our Canada Hydrogen Strategy just in December, she said, we know we can do this because we're doing it. The Alberta trunk line for carbon capture is operating. Alberta produces hydrogen right now. You are leading the way, as Albertans have done time and again in responding to the challenges that face our country. Alberta leads. So I want to congratulate Chris Nash and the entire team at the Alberta Motor Transport Association and all of our partners joining us today for your leadership, for your vision. You are ahead of this. You are ahead of the pack. Projects like this, this is how we double down on our common mission. And this is how I describe our common mission. Net zero emissions by 2050, but also a prosperous economy that continues to create good jobs, and a low carbon future that leaves no one behind, not energy workers, nor energy producing provinces like yours and like mine here in Newfoundland and Labrador. I know all of that's a lot, and I know it's ambitious, but we're Canada and you're Alberta. It's what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I would now like to introduce Chris Nash, President of the Alberta Motor Transport Association. Chris?
Excellent. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, Minister O'Regan, for having us here today and everyone else for joining us. It's always exciting to participate in announcements like this because they reflect a renewed appreciation for the commercial transportation sector and for trucking in particular. Our industry has been on display as the essential link between all the stops on Canada's supply chain in the last few years. In the years to come, the industry is going to get even more attention as demand grows and as technology moves us faster and faster towards becoming a net zero sector. AMTA is helping Canada's transition away from traditional fossil fuels. We've embraced new technology like hydrogen from early on. We've shared and learned inspiring things by working with the Hydrogen Task Force, with the Minister's team, and with all our partners involved in building out Alberta's hydrogen hub. One thing we've learned is that developing new energy sources and piloting new products like hydrogen fuel cells are just a few of the steps along the way to significantly reduce Canada's greenhouse gas emissions. Building the infrastructure required to distribute new energy sources from the generation plants to refueling stations is a critical part of the energy transition. The Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Demonstration, also known as the EVID program, does this and supports the Alberta Zero Emission Truck Electrification Collaboration, AZETEC, as the Minister mentioned. It also offers Canadians an exciting glimpse into what the future of commercial transportation looks like. In our industry, electric vehicles equipped with smart technologies are destined to drive safety, efficiency, and ongoing innovation. AMTA is thankful for today's announcement. We are humbled by the responsibility the Government of Canada has bestowed on our association and our industry. This is a tremendous opportunity for our association to contribute to Canada's economic growth and international competitiveness. Thank you very much, everyone, and back to you, Marcel.
Thank you, Chris. Next up, we have Steve MacDonald, Chief Executive Officer at Emissions Reduction Alberta. Steve.
Thank you, Marcel. It's great to be part of today's announcement. You know, the world has made significant commitments to reduce emissions, and we can't get there without developing and deploying technology. In 2007, Alberta became the first jurisdiction in North America to put a price on carbon for large emitters and to use the proceeds to accelerate the most promising technologies to both cut emissions and grow our economy. Over the past decade, ERA has committed over $650 million toward 204 clean technology projects. These projects have attracted over $4.5 billion in public and private investment. Advancing these technologies is helping to reduce GHGs, improve the competitiveness of our existing industries, and create new opportunities in Alberta and across Canada. In March of last year, we were hosted by AMTA to announce the winners of our BEST Challenge, a funding competition focused on biotechnology, electricity, and sustainable transportation innovations. Over $100 million in investments in 16 projects included over $7 million for the AZETEC project. This project is building Alberta's commitment to innovation, or building on our abundant natural resources and our leadership in sustainable energy development. It helps bridge a technology gap for heavy-duty, long-range transportation that currently can't be met by battery-powered vehicles. It drives market awareness and acceptance of hydrogen technologies. This will help create the customers for the clean hydrogen Alberta will produce. And last but not least, it brought together an impressive consortium of partners committed to taking the project across the finish line. And it's great to see the list of partners grow today. The net zero challenges and the timelines to achieve them are too big and complex for one investor, one industry, one government, or even one country to tackle alone. In our efforts to identify and accelerate the technologies needed to ensure Alberta and Canada's continued success in a low carbon futures, we have learned that a community of actions and players is required. And AZETEC is a powerful demonstration of this shared commitment. Thank you, Minister O'Regan and NRCan for your commitment today. And thank you to all the partners for your contributions to the project. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Marcel.
Thank you, Steve. I would now like to introduce Andrea Decore, Vice President of Strategy and Corporate Development at Suncor. Andrea?
Thank you very much, Marcel. Suncor has the privilege of supplying all of the hydrogen to the AZETEC project. And we're also going to host the purification and compression and fueling equipment at our Edmonton refinery. Many of you may not know that Suncor is actually Canada's largest producer and consumer of hydrogen. And we're also Canada's largest retailer of fuels to the commercial transport industry. Because of that, we have, I think, a unique position to play a leading role in the developing hydrogen economy. So hydrogen for this pilot project is going to actually come from one of the hydrogen recovery units within our Edmonton refinery. This is an example of Suncor being able to leverage our own internal demand and our own internal production facilities to make cost-competitive hydrogen available to customers and third parties, and in this case, at Suncor's cost, to the pilot. Supplying fuel cell-grade hydrogen to the pilot allows Suncor to test our distribution and fueling equipment for hydrogen transport under real-world conditions, and to begin to develop a service offering for hydrogen as a commercial transportation fuel. Additionally, the collaborative nature of this project involving premier Canadian trucking companies, as well as end users, and leading edge technology providers and equipment suppliers, provides an opportunity to credibly prove the viability of hydrogen as a zero emissions fuel for long large long-haul vehicles where battery storage isn't practical. Proving viability will in turn stimulate demand. The pilot also has a strong fit with the world-scale clean hydrogen production and storage project that Suncor and ATCO have recently announced that we're in the early stages of developing in the same area of Alberta, the Alberta Industrial Heartland. So in closing, we're pleased to be part of this project. Transitioning to clean hydrogen production is an important part of Suncor's strategy to dramatically reduce the GHG emissions from our base business and to lower the carbon intensity of the fuels that we provide to our customers. Back to you, Marcel.
Thank you, Andrea. So moving on to David Lazyzell, professor of University of Calgary and the energy systems architect with the Transition Accelerator. David?
Thank you very much, Marcel. It's a delight to be here. And I think when you look at the energy systems of Canada, heavy duty transportation is well known to be a very difficult to decarbonize sector. Alternatives like biofuels and battery electric vehicles have serious problems in meeting both the needs of the environment and the needs of the trucking sector. So in a transition to a net zero emission energy system for the heavy duty sector, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles are clearly emerging as a technology of choice. However, they need fueling stations, and the announcements today will result in the first such fueling station in Alberta, and probably one of the only in Canada that can handle these heavy duty trucks like those being built for the AZETEC project. The hydrogen fueling station will provide an important anchor for the recently announced Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub. It is an initiative supported by 3 levels of government, as well as 2 First Nation groups, to accelerate the transition to a hydrogen economy in the region. Now, because of the great cooperation and goodwill from all of the participants in this project, this fueling station announced today will not only support the AZETEC trucks, but a number of other hydrogen-fueled vehicle initiatives that the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub is hoping to be announcing over the next year. I want to end by thanking Minister O'Regan for the support from NRCan, and of course, Stephen MacDonald for the support from the Emission Reductions Alberta. And thanks to the industry partners that I've had a real pleasure to work with over the last couple of years, and it's been fantastic to work with, and it's exciting to see this project move forward. Thank you, and back to you, Marcel.
Thank you, David. I would now like to introduce Colin Armstrong, President and CEO of the Hydrogen Technology and Energy Corporation. Colin?
Thanks, Marcel. And yeah, super excited to be part of this and really continue to tell this story. I mean, it's a fascinating project, right? It's bringing Quebec together. It's bringing Vancouver tech companies together. It's bringing Alberta tech companies together. So super exciting. And I think the output will be even more exciting. So we're in the thick of it. As AZETEC, we like to say we're fueling the drive to hydrogen, but it's really about helping groups explore the potential of hydrogen leading to the zero emission transportation. So working with groups like Suncor, educating them on small hydrogen. They're really involved in big hydrogen, but we have to get guys that are comfortable fueling station operations, fueling the trucks, the safety that goes into big operations, migrate that down to the public. So this projects like this are super important for us to take that first, well, it's a big step or a small step, but a step in the right direction to, like was talked previously, we got to fill up at minus 30 degrees. We got to fill up at plus 30 degrees. We have to have it work every day. I mean, these trucks are going to be filling up on a daily basis and start to get the confidence of Bison and Trimac to be able to use this and transition to it. There are huge pressures on them to be operational every single day. And Suncor knows all about this. And as we work together as a big company, a small company, it's super exciting working with Canadians, working on the multi-levels that you see here today. I mean, we're the ones rolling up our sleeves, getting the nuts and bolts in place as we speak. So super exciting. Thanks for the opportunity from AZETEC. I think there'll be a lot of eyes on it. I think it'll, as the different layers get unpacked, it's super positive. So thanks for the support from the federal government, key to all this, and looking forward to having things roll out. And I think we're supposed to kick off in the middle of winter just to make sure it's really fun. So thanks a lot for the opportunity. Look forward to working with everybody as on the hydrogen side of things.
Great. Thank you, Colin. I would now like to introduce Ian Cameron, our media moderator, who will be conducting today's Q&A. Ian?
Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Cameron, Senior Communications Advisor to Minister Seamus O'Regan. We're going to go to a media question and answer period now. We're just going to, if you have a question, just find me in the chats. Again, that's Ian Cameron. Shoot me a private message and I'll throw you in the queue. We'll go with one question and one follow-up per person. Donc, bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Ian Cameron, je suis conseiller principal en communication pour le ministre O'Regan. On va maintenant passer à la période de questions-réponses médiatiques. Si vous avez une question, il faut juste me trouver dans la section clavardage puis m'envoyer une clavardage pour me dire que vous avez une question, puis je vais vous mettre dans le fil. On va aller avec une question, un suivi chacun. So first up, we're going to go to Dale Lunan of Natural Gas World.
Thank you, Ian. This is a question for Andrea, and I'm sorry if you may have answered in your remarks, but I'm curious as to the hydrogen that will be used in this project. I know Suncor is a big producer of gray hydrogen, and you've got the plan with ATCO for blue hydrogen. Will this be blue hydrogen or will this be gray hydrogen that Suncor is providing?
It's gray hydrogen for this project. We are working on a blue hydrogen development, like production facility, but that's not going to be ready till 2027. So essentially, we're working on developing the market in advance of the blue hydrogen being available. What's interesting, though, is we're taking the hydrogen actually as a recovered hydrogen stream out of our production process. So it's a bit of a byproduct in our refining process, and we're kind of slipstreaming a recovered hydrogen stream out of our refining process. So it's a bit of a byproduct actually of our refining process, which I think is interesting for this project.
Maybe I could add a comment on that. Even though it's gray hydrogen, the emissions reductions on a life cycle basis compared to diesel are about 20 to 25% emission reductions, even in this project. When we get to blue hydrogen, it will go to about a 90% emission reduction.
Excellent. Thanks, David. Thanks, Andrea.
Okay, thank you very much. And we can go to Emma Greeny of Global Mail next.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking my question. I did have a couple. This might actually be for Minister O'Regan, but what was so attractive about this project for the federal government? Obviously, it's been running for a while and ERA has been pretty enthusiastic about it, as have a lot of people here in Alberta, but what was the attraction for the federal government and how do you see it, I guess, applying to a broader Canadian context?
Testing it out, a demonstration project just to see the effectiveness. I mean, between the Edmonton Calgary corridor, I mean, it's just getting a look and feel for the design and manufacture and the operation of long range fuel cell electric trucks. I mean, it's a golden opportunity to do that, to install and test a hydrogen fueling station, in these conditions for highway heavy duty commercial fleet vehicles, using the real world conditions of what it is to drive between Edmonton and Calgary, from minus 40 degrees to plus 40 degrees. How will they manage in that environment? Just it reminds me of, the president of ExxonMobil Canada saying to me that there's no environment that ExxonMobil operates in that is harsher anywhere in the world than the offshore of my province, Newfoundland, and those rigs out there that ExxonMobil has, Hebron and Hibernia. They are using that as all sorts of far smaller demonstration projects to see if they can withstand the conditions out there. They can certainly, handle the Gulf of Mexico. And here, look, if we can, getting hydrogen working and working properly in these conditions will be a significant and serious test case. Proudly happening in Alberta, which is leading the way in hydrogen, building on the recent announcement from Suncor and ATCO. This is exciting stuff. I mean, I just, came out of a clean energy ministerial this morning with the U.S. Secretary of Energy and my counterparts in the European Union and all over the world. The world is looking to hydrogen, and the world is looking to Canada as a supplier of that hydrogen. We've been very firm that involves not just green, but blue as well, building on the strengths of Alberta and Saskatchewan, as well as Quebec, BC, Ontario, and Newfoundland and Labrador.
Thanks, Minister. Yeah, actually, I just wanted to clarify then. I guess I have two follow-ups. I'm going to be cheeky. Sorry. So just, Minister, to clarify, do you see this then playing a role in how the federal government and Canada rolls in hydrogen in other parts of the country? And I just wanted to clarify, David, you had mentioned, I think it's the first hydrogen refueling station that this money will go to. So I did want to clarify that. But yeah, Minister, if you could let me know, broader Canada, how do you see this applying in other parts of the country?
Well, if this demonstration project works, as I said, between, in this corridor, then, it'll be applicable throughout the country, but I mean, also anywhere in the world. And if you look at, the great work that Emissions Reduction Alberta has been doing, but, also, Ballard, which is a leader in this going back decades. And I think their vision is being realized. So you've got conditions, you've got extreme weather conditions that exist in Alberta within this corridor, but it's also heavily commercial. So, it's applicable in that, you're looking at the extremes of Canadian weather, and you're looking at a heavily commercial route in this country. So, if you can survive there, then it is commercially applicable. It is completely in keeping with our hydrogen strategy. It is building on the leadership that, that the people on the call with me here have already demonstrated. And, so much has changed over the course of the past year in the energy field, and hydrogen suddenly has incredible momentum around the world. And I am awed and inspired by the leadership that people in this country have shown in this sector. The way that they have embraced hydrogen, the way that the Alberta government has done, as well as the federal government and other jurisdictions in this country. The Americans suddenly, with the change of administration, have done a 180 on this, as I think everybody here recognizes, with the Biden administration as opposed to the Trump administration. And they are going to invest heavily. And I always say they are our closest friends and our strongest allies. They are also our biggest competitors. I think we've got a real advantage here, most especially with our people, with the expertise that we have shown, and as workers in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland, and Labrador retool to the future, hydrogen is there.
It's Colin. Maybe I could jump in on that. So with the technology, so AZETEC's supplying the purification and the fueling solution that's going to be used. We're already quoting groups in Europe, groups in the US. We're actually applying similar to Port of LA project. We're using it for a number of our strategies in Quebec and Alberta on the heavy duty side of things. So being given paybacks already from the activities we're undertaking from our point of view.
Awesome.
There was a question in there to David, I believe, as well.
Yes, I guess certainly this will be the first hydrogen fueling station in Alberta. There are other hydrogen fueling stations in Quebec and in British Columbia. This will be probably one of the only, though, that can really take the very large trucks just because of the location around it. And it's basically been designed to take some very big trucks. So these are the largest trucks on the highways in Canada today that will be the AZETEC trucks. And indeed, they're trucks that are specifically built for Canadian conditions. And this makes this project quite exciting. And this fueling station, an incredibly important anchor to do that. To make
David, to quote Sinatra, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and to complement that, David, we know the environment is one part of it, but the unique part about Alberta is the weights that we run and the distance that these trucks are going to go. You know, we've seen a lot of projects. They're all close to home projects because they can't get far. The proof of concept here to get distance and the 63,500 kilogram gross weight of the vehicle with a load is the big part. And to your point, that's what's going to make it, if it works here, it works anywhere. And we've got the perfect sandbox to be able to build it.
Thank you all. Thank you, Emma. Up next, we have Stephanie Taylor of the Canadian Press.
Thank you so much. And Minister, I'm going to ask you an Alberta related question, but on a different topic. I wanted to ask about what you believe Canada's export capacity is and might need to be. Do you believe that Canada still requires export capacity beyond the TMX and Line 3 pipelines?
I don't know. I think the market will decide that. I think investors will decide that. But you know, I think the reason why we're here is because hydrogen has become commercially viable in a very short amount of time, and we can see the applications and the export potential for hydrogen. And I would say that, you know, the same would apply for anything in the energy sector, to be honest with you. You know, if it's a good project, if it adheres to you know, what our net zero commitments to emissions reduction. And obviously our commitments to consultation, particularly with First Nations and Métis and Inuit communities, then, you know, the market will decide these things. But the investors are moving with their feet. I mean, you know, look at the past 2 weeks, the International Energy Agency report. Look at what happened with ExxonMobil with their board of directors. Look what shareholders have done at Chevron. Look at what the courts have decided with Royal Dutch Shell. And, you know, on the upside, look at the amazing initiative from Suncor and ATCO on you know, their initiative on hydrogen. I mean, things are moving very, very, very quickly. And we are not just keeping up, but we're leading.
A follow-up to that, though, like, what is some may hear that answer and think that although you say you don't know, the writing on the wall seems to be more in the direction of no than yes. Like, what is the market telling you, and are you leaning closer to no based on everything you just said and where we are in our current climate?
Well, I look at the IEA report, the International Energy Agency, and I spend a lot of time sitting in this chair. My predecessors told me I'd be having to fly to Paris for all these amazing meetings with them, and I've done them all here from St. John's and right here in this Zoom frame. The IEA, we commissioned the study. We wanted to know what net zero would look like. We wanted to know what effect it would have. You know, the IEA was created in 1974 during the oil crises at the time to make sure that the world had enough oil. Their conclusion in this was that the world, they believe, has enough oil. Now, there are a few areas here that, you know, we would take issue with. And, you know, one of them would be on the applicability of natural gas using CCUS to provide blue hydrogen. You know, that has to be taken into consideration. And there also has to be taken into consideration, I think the market has to start to appreciate, you know, what our energy workers and our energy companies are capable of doing. We are singularly focused on lower emissions. That is what we are focused on. That is what we are working with our industry on here to make sure that they are lowering emissions to increase their competitiveness in the world marketplace. Increasingly, that's what investors are looking for. You know, we have seen that with the shareholder disruptions in some of the major oil companies over the course of the past 7 or 8 days. The market is moving. It is incumbent upon us as the 4th largest producer of oil and gas in the world to make sure that we make our case, to make sure that we lower emissions, and to make sure that we build investor trust.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Next up, we have Tony Seskas from CBC, but Tony's having trouble with his mic, so I'm just going to read out word for word his first question here. Can I please get an update from David or Chris on when the trucks will begin running between Calgary and Edmonton?
So at this time, we're looking to have them on the road in 2022, hopefully second quarter is where we are right now.
I think it's important to recognize that these trucks had to be designed, and Ballard and Dana and other partners have been working very hard for the last while, designing trucks that have never been built at this scale before. So at the size and the technical requirements, and so this is a pretty exciting project, and it's going to be. I'll tell you right now, we're getting phone calls from companies around the world interested in hydrogen fuel cell trucks, eager to find out the answer to the same question: when are we going to see these? How are you handling these problems? And And so I think it opens up an opportunity, I think, for manufacturing in Canada. I think it opens up an opportunity for this whole sector. You know, Canada could take a leadership role in this if we, in actually starting to provide the world with some heavy duty vehicles, not only for on-road, but off-road as well.
So Chris, David, let me take the opportunity then, given that timeline, and I've got my first vaccination, and I'll be getting my second one, and this country's going to be opening up again. I want to take a trip. Save me a seat. I'm excited. I want to do the drive. Yeah. There's always something for me to do in Calgary. There's always something for me to do in Edmonton. I got to get from point A to point B. Might as well be in one of your trucks.
There's a good idea.
Right on.
We're going to try and open the hydrogen station earlier in the winter, so we have some validations ahead of the trucks needing it the following winter. So we're trying to do the hydrogen supply solution with Suncor in the February timeframe, and just going through various testings ahead of the truck.
I grew up in Labrador. I'll bring my long johns. All good.
Okay, and Tony's follow-up, again, his words here. What work needs to be done still on those trucks? How key is today's announcement in meeting that goal?
I mean, I can comment on this. It's really getting all the components of the trucks to work together and deployed. We're still trying to do the final, hopefully within a month or so, we'll have the final lockdown on all of the design details. And then the trucks, of course, have to be built and tested. And so in terms of this, the fueling station, it's absolutely critical. If you had a truck and you didn't have a fueling station, you're not going to go very far. So we want the fueling station in first, and the trucks will follow. And the beauty of it is the fueling station could also open up an opportunity for other vehicles, maybe not 63.5-ton trucks that can drive 700 kilometers, but other hydrogen fuel cell vehicles to be tested and deployed in the Edmonton region. And I'm hoping that we will have by February or March next year some other demonstrations in the space of vehicles that are a little more conventional, if you like, in terms of the hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, not the breakthrough kind of vehicles that we're putting in the AZETEC project. So this fueling station, as I mentioned in my comments, will actually do more than just provide the AZETEC, and AMTA has been fantastic, and Suncor and HTEC have been fantastic in wanting to see this investment really take it as far as it can go and apply to other hydrogen vehicles as well.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Tony, and other members of the media. Back to you, Marcel.
So thank you, Natural Resource Canada and Minister O'Regan, for today's announcement, and thank you to all the participants for attending today. I'm very fortunate to have been involved with the AZETEC project to bring hydrogen fuel to the trucking sector since its inception. Today's funding announcement and long-term efforts to build electric vehicle infrastructure across Canada shows investors that Alberta's hydrogen industry is essential to Canada's transition to a zero-emission future, and that our northern climate fuels a unique kind of valuable Canadian innovation. Thank you, everybody.
I got to go off the question period, and that won't be nearly as pleasant an experience as this has been. So thank you all very, very much.